All right, so we're back again, guys. We're doing double duty today. So we're on Book of Matthew, chapter 20. Okay, so here we go. Well, you want to read this one?
20.
Yeah, 20.
Set me up. Good? Okay. The parable of the vineyard workers. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the workers on 1 denarius, he sent them into his vineyard for a day. When he went out about 9 in the morning, he saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He said to them, "You also go into my vineyard, and I'll give you whatever is right." So off they went. About noon and about 3, he went out again and did the same thing. Then about 5, he went and found others standing around, and said to them, "Why have you been standing here all day doing nothing?" "Because no one hired us," they said to him. "You also go into my vineyard," he told them. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard told his foreman, "Call the workers and give them their pay, starting with the last and ending with the first." When those who were hired, about 5, came, they each received 1 denarius. So when the first ones came, they assumed they would get more, but they also received a denarius each. When they received it, they began to complain to the landowner. "These last men put in 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who bore the burden of the day's work and the burning heat." He replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Didn't you agree with me on a denarius? Take what's yours and go. I want to give this last man the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with what is mine? Are you jealous because I'm generous?" So the last will be first, and the first last.
Okay. Any questions on that? That's a parable.
I feel like I heard this before.
Well, Jesus speaks in parables a lot. So what we have going on here is we have a landowner who goes out to the marketplace and he's hiring people at different times to work in his vineyard. But some of the people got upset, right? Because they said, "Well, wait a minute, you hired me earlier on and I've been working all day. And then you went and hired this guy and he only came and he only worked for an hour or two and we got the same amount of money." Right? So, do you think that that's fair?
Huh?
Do you think that that's fair?
I'd say, well, thinking about it in my head, I have two different opinions.
What?
It's, well, at one point, I thought the person should get more money, but then I thought about it, and it didn't really matter at the end. It's just, even if he came in earlier, doesn't mean he should get less money.
Do you know what it is that their reward is that they're getting?
No.
That's why it's a parable, because this is the way that I see it. Okay, this is actually about salvation. Okay, and it's about God's generosity. So God can be generous whenever He wants, and just because I have been working or I have been following the Bible, following Jesus for my whole life, doesn't mean that if somebody comes and joins Jesus 5 minutes ago, much later in his own life, that he gets any less the reward than I do. Because guess what? If I was with Jesus since I was a little kid like you, I get heaven. And if there's an older person out there that never knew about Jesus and at the last minute they learn about Jesus, what do you think their reward is? They're still going to heaven. So that's what that's teaching. And it's wanting you to remember and focus on that so that you know you're not better than anybody else. As a matter of fact, the expectation is different for you who've known Jesus longer. And that's why he said, those who will be last now will be first then, and those who will be first, or those who are first will be last. Because if I've been a Christian for a long time, I know everything that Jesus promised, and I know everything that's supposed to happen. But a new person might not. He might not understand everything, right? He might still be learning, might still be growing. So it's only right that God is more generous and more merciful with that person. Me, I understand more, so I can take a little bit more. I can handle a little bit more, a little bit more waiting, maybe a little bit of more sacrifice, whatever it is. Okay? But my turn will come. Our turn will come. So never worry about pushing people out of the way to get your reward, which is heaven, because you're going to get it. And never be upset at somebody else for getting the reward that you get just because you've been on the trail longer than they have. Okay? All right. Let's work through this. I'll take the next one. Jesus predicts his death the third time. Okay? This is what this is about. So Jesus knows he's going to die. Okay? This is before he dies, and he knows he's going to die. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside privately and told them what was going to happen to him. Listen, he said, we're going up to Jerusalem where the Son of Man, he was saying the Son of Man is him, himself, where the Son of Man will be betrayed to the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. They will sentence him to die. Then they will hand him over to the Romans to be mocked, flogged, and with a whip and crucified. But on the third day, he will be raised from the dead. Okay? So he said he will die by the hands of the Romans. He'll be mocked, flogged with a whip, and crucified. And on the third day, he will raise from the dead. Okay? All right. Almost finished. Sure. This one. Oh, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Something you were reading, where did you stop? Because I forgot where.
What was your question about?
When you started the first page, where did you stop?
Well, what's your question? What are you worried about? What was your
Like,
question? About the denarius? About giving money to the vineyard?
There
To the
was something
workers?
about. It was kind of like out with the Lord, not the road, something like that.
Oh, you're talking about the first and the last? You're talking about that? It's interesting that you said out with the old and with the new. Because, Jesus is the new covenant.
Well, where did you read the out with the new?
No, it's not what he said. He understood it as it, but
No, it's the
So the
first.
last-
So
yeah.
it's what I just spoke
so the
about.
last will be first and the first will be last.
Yeah. So technically, those who have been following Jesus
For a longer time.
the longer time will have to wait.
Mhm.
Okay. That's all. But everybody gets their turn. Okay. Everybody gets to be with Jesus in the end. If you follow along his path. Okay. Go ahead, Lily.
Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. "What is your request?" he asked. She replied, "In your kingdom, please let my 2 sons sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left." But Jesus answered by saying to them, "You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink?" "Oh yes," they replied, "we are able." Jesus told them, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. My Father has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen."
You want me to finish? Or you want to keep going? You have a question?
Yeah, I can keep going.
Okay.
When the 10 other disciples heard what Jesus and John had asked, they were
James.
James and John had asked, they were indignant, but Jesus called them together and said, "You know the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be the leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be the first among must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Any questions on that?
No. Thank you for me.
Have any questions, baby?
So some people were asking, so someone asked if her sons can sit with Jesus in heaven, on his left and on his right. And what Jesus said is, you don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? What they don't know is that after this, okay, he's talking about a bitter cup of suffering he's about to drink. And later on, we'll hear him say, will you not take this cup from me? Or will you, if you are willing, take this cup from me? And he's going to be talking to his Father, which is the Father.
Lord.
The Father. Jesus is going to be talking to the Father in heaven, saying, if it be your will, take this cup from me. Because what he's talking about is suffering. He says bitter suffering because he's about to be crucified and killed. And what he's telling them is, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who will sit on my right or left. My Father has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen. So what he's saying to them is, if you walk with me, it's bad for you. Why is it bad for you? Because as Christians, people want to do bad things to us because of Jesus. Because there's a lot of people that don't like Jesus. Okay? So it's a commitment. If you love him, you follow him. But if you love him and you follow him, you know that he died because people hated him and they didn't know what they were doing. Okay? So when people were asking, hey, can we go to heaven with you? They didn't realize that they were asking to be treated the same as Jesus, because that's what it will take. Okay? That's what it will take. So it's not easy to get into heaven. That's what he's saying. Okay? So we have to think about that all the time. All right.
Good job, Lloyd.
Good job. And then this is the last two paragraphs. As Jesus and the disciples left the town of Jericho, a large crowd followed behind. 2 blind men were sitting beside the road when they heard that Jesus was coming that way. They began shouting, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Be quiet, the crowd yelled at them, but they only shouted louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. When Jesus heard them, he stopped and called, What do you want me to do for you? Lord, they said, we want to see. Jesus felt sorry for them and touched their eyes. Instantly they could see. Then they followed him. Okay? Yeah. All Jesus had to do was touch you and you were healed. That's it. That's all you had to do and you were healed. Yeah. But that's it. 20 is done. Any questions? Think. No? You? You forgot your question? Okay. Well, we'll talk about it in private or whatever if you remember, okay? We can always rewatch this video. That's the whole point why we're doing this, okay? All right. Thank you, guys.